Hey mamas, you're listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast, the only podcast teaching you how to balance your work, motherhood, and wellness. I am Dr. Amber Thornton, clinical psychologist and mama wellness consultant. Each week we dive into tips and strategies and much more so that you too can become a balanced working mama. Let's dive in. Hey mamas. Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Working Mama podcast. I hope you are doing well. Let's check in real quick. So, let's see. How am I doing? Let me be very thoughtful and mindful about that. I am taking time to rest, you all. I'm resting. Like I say all the time, if you follow me on Instagram, you have a much deeper sneak peek into my life, and you all know that I recently made some decisions about the work that I'm doing, postponed, canceled some things, just so that I can allow myself to have more time to just rest. I started to notice that I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling really tired, and the days were going on, and I wasn't feeling as if I was being replenished or refueling myself in terms of my rest. And so I am making the executive decision to slow down, do less for the rest of this month. So we've got like 2 more weeks in this month. Um, and so I'm really going to focus on doing a lot less and really giving my body and my mind some time to rest, especially before we ramp up for another cycle of the Empower Wellness Program. Empower Wellness Program begins again the first week of October. And September, we're really going to start hitting the ground running in terms of filling the rest of our spots. We've got 6 more spots left, y'all, for mamas. And so before that, though, I really just want to rest. I want to give my mind and my body a break. So I'm paring down my workouts, not doing very much there, allowing myself to sleep in a tiny, tiny bit, but also just not doing as much work. I'm slowing down. So it feels good to do that. I noticed, for instance, today I just felt a little bit more clear in terms of my brain. I didn't feel so bogged down. And I think it's, my mind and my body reacting to, hey, she's giving us some more rest and this is good. So I hope that y'all are also allowing you all yourselves to have more rest, especially if you're tired, especially if you're feeling depleted. It's good to just stop sometimes. And so I'm working on that. I hope that you all are working on that as well. But let's get into today's episode. I'm excited for this one. This one is all about outsourcing. And if you don't know what I mean when I say outsourcing, don't worry, because I didn't know for the longest time either. Just check the episode out. You'll learn what outsourcing is and why it can be helpful for you. All right, y'all. Hey mama, I want to quickly tell you about the Empower Wellness Program. This is a dynamic 6-week group for working mothers who are tired of feeling overwhelmed, fatigued, burdened by mom guilt, but then also just not having enough time for themselves. This program takes all of that and transforms it into more wellness, more time for yourself, better priorities, community with other mothers, but then overall balance in your work, motherhood, and wellness. To learn more about the Empower Wellness Program, head over to balanceworkingmama.com. There you can find when the next program begins, what to expect, but then also how to sign up. Hope to see you in the next group. Okay, mamas, let's get into today's episode. All right, so we are going to be talking about outsourcing. And so, funny story, well, not a funny story, but just a thing of, if someone doesn't understand what I mean when I say outsourcing, don't worry, because I, for the longest time, did not know what that meant when I heard people say outsourcing as well. It just sounded like a very, like, a word that just feels, I don't know. I can't explain it, but I did not understand what people meant when they said outsourcing for the for the longest time, you all. So today we are going to be talking about outsourcing. And when I say outsourcing, what I mean is essentially hiring help, hiring out, looking outside of yourself or your home to get the help that you need, to source the resources, things like that. So basically, hiring help is what we're talking about today. And I want to talk about this because it has been a really important part of my life in terms of my motherhood experience, how my family functions, and allowing me to have more space and time to do the things that really matter, but then the things that also fuel me a little bit more, and also allows me to show up in this business and balance working mama more, because I'm not so bogged down with all of the functions of the home. We have used outsourcing in so many different ways that has helped me and my husband tremendously to show up in other aspects of our lives. And I'm so grateful for it. So that's what we're going to talk about today is outsourcing. So, hold on, you all. I know you can't see this, but I have like two screens up. If you've ever seen me post about my podcasting process, you all know I usually have a screen to record the podcast and to look at some notes. And then I record it on Zoom to have those cool little video clips that you all see me put on Instagram of the episodes. And it was just, okay, I'm good now. I had to switch my screens around. All right, two screens. Ooh. All right, you all. Outsourcing. So first, I want to start with how I even got started with outsourcing and what it means for me. And if I am remembering correctly, and I probably should have asked my husband about this before I mentioned it, just to confirm that my memory is right on this. I believe we started outsourcing before we were even married. And what I remembered when I was trying to think back of the story of when did I start outsourcing and how did it become a part of my life, I remember it being something that we did on like bigger, less frequent occurrences. So, for instance, the very first time I remember us outsourcing was when we moved from our apartment in Tennessee to our home in Maryland. And so at the time, we had no children. We were married and we were about to relocate from Tennessee to the DC area. And so we both had jobs. And actually, it was a situation where my husband, he ended up moving first. He moved in like March of that year. And then I wrapped up everything and moved in May. And so the idea of me like cleaning the entire apartment, moving all of our things by myself was extremely overwhelming. Like, there was no way that I was going to be doing all of that on my own. So, what we decided was that I would pack up everything. And then, when the apartment was empty, in order for us to get our security deposit back, we would hire cleaners to clean it up. And that actually worked really well. And that was my very first time ever hiring a cleaner to clean my living space. I think from then I was kind of hooked because I was just like, oh my gosh, that you can really hire people to do this. So that at that moment was like a game changer for me, but then also this total different experience of like, I literally did not even know that that was something that I could access. It had not dawned on me that I could actually hire someone to clean my apartment. I think at the time I assumed that it was something that only very wealthy people could do. And so it just never even crossed my mind to think that that was something that I could do. And so moving on with our move, that was also the very first time that I had hired, no, that is true. Yeah. That was the very first time that I had hired a mover as well. Um, And I was hesitating because prior to this, I had moved from California to Ohio, but that was all on my own, in all of these various ways. I basically sold all my things and bought all new things, and then did it again to move back to Ohio. So this was my first time hiring a mover, to move my items from one state to another. And so this was the moment when I realized, like, oh yeah, we need to do more of this. So we ended up moving, settled into Maryland in our first home as a married couple, and really didn't utilize much outsourcing for a while. But I recall the very next time that we did that was when I became pregnant with my son, C3. So we were living in Maryland at the time, and I was pregnant and tired. And with that, I also had this house, this big old house, that needed to be cleaned. And I had a whole job at the time. I also had a podcast, a different perspective podcast for those of you all who have followed me from there to here. I had things that I was doing. I was not in a position to clean as frequently as I had been. And so we realized we needed some help with that. So that was our first major outsourcing move, was hiring house cleaners to come and clean our home when I was pregnant for the very first time. Um, I remember that being another really big game changer, because it was really hard to go back to doing it myself after having someone come in and do it for us. And what we did at that time, it wasn't like a regular thing. Honestly, it was just like, oh yeah, the house getting dirty, it's time. And so we would book a cleaning. And we used a super simple Amazon service for that one at the time too. We hadn't found someone that we consistently called to do it. We found Amazon. We use Amazon for everything. If you all are also addicted to Amazon, just know that they have services on there, Amazon services. And so you could literally Google or go to Amazon, look up their services, and house cleaning services is one of them. And so I think the way that it works, don't quote me on this, but I think the way that it works is that they have various cleaning businesses that are contracted with Amazon. And so when you book a service through Amazon services, they will determine who will come to your home. You get to select the date and the time. And the price at the time was between like 100 and 125 per 2 to 3 hours. So literally just $125 at the most for a house cleaning at the time for us. And we did that maybe once every other month or so, because in the meantime, we would tidy up on our own. But that was huge. And again, this was the moment where I started to realize, like, I can separate this idea of motherhood and wife being so closely connected to the functions of the home. I think, and I'll talk about this later in the episode, I think for many of us, we are hesitant to outsource because we feel some type of way about not being able to do this on our own. We grew up seeing our mothers and our grandmothers do all of this. And that was their role. That was embedded into their identity as mother or as wife. And so for us now in these roles, it feels strange, different, weird to now say, hey, I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a partner, I am whatever. But I'm not choosing to take on these tasks, or I don't have time for these tasks, or these tasks just don't make me happy and I don't want to do them. It's hard for us to do that because we haven't seen it done this way. We haven't seen it done this way. Many of us have not. And I myself have not. So we utilized Amazon services for a good while, until we eventually, from friends of a friend, found actually a few people, house cleaning services in the DC area that were really good. And now we have one that we go to all the time. We call her up. Her and her crew comes. They know our home because they've been here for so many times. And so now it's just like they know exactly what to do. We don't have to, there's not a lot of questions. Y'all, she even cleans the air fryer. Okay. They clean the air fryer. I've 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 never cleaned my air fryer before. Get you a house cleaner that will also clean your air fryer without you even asking. We didn't even ask her to do this, and she cleaned the air fryer. Ooh, okay. So yes, it is life changing. It is a game changer. So now at this point, we are 2 kids in, married for almost 4 years. We have another home now in DC. We both have businesses. There are so many things to do around here. And so we've added on more outsourcing just to help us stay afloat amidst the chaos of our lives at this point. And so now we're much more consistent with the house cleaning. We typically have the cleaners come every 4 to 6 weeks for our house cleaning. We also now have outsourced laundry, a good amount of the laundry. My laundry is outsourced. My daughter's laundry is outsourced. My son's laundry, about half of the time, his gets outsourced. I don't know why we haven't just gone on ahead and have his always be outsourced. I've got to talk to my husband about that because usually my husband prepares my son in the morning for school, and so he'll just throw in a load of laundry. But the issue is I then have to fold it. So I don't want to do that anymore. So we'll probably soon have my son's laundry outsourced. My husband still does his own laundry. And also meals. I use Daily Harvest at this point for some of my meals, mostly my lunch. So now I'm no longer having to meal prep and plan for what I'm going to eat for lunch every day. I get Daily Harvest. And so I just take one of them frozen bad boys, put it in my lunchbox, take that thing to work and throw it in the microwave. It's very, very easy. And then of course I'll add some other things, like I'll bring a fruit. I usually bring like a granola bar or something like that, other snacks along with it. But the main portion of the meal is already planned for me. So those are the ways that we outsource at this point in this house. But there are so many other ways that you can outsource depending on your needs of your family, depending on your time, your resources. There's so many ways that you can do these things. And so I want to get into that. That's what it looks like for me, but I want to talk about what it might look like for you. So let's first talk about the reasons why we are hesitant to even move forward with hiring help. The very first thing that comes to mind, I think, for many people when they are considering hiring help is the financial piece. Because you all, these services are not free. They should not be free because these are actual hardworking people who are coming in and doing service for you. And so, no, it is not free. Sometimes it is not cheap. But what I've noticed in myself, but then also other mamas that I've worked with, is that we often assume we don't have the resources for these things because there is this assumption that outsourcing or hiring help is a luxury thing. And so what that means is we have that mindset of like, oh, this is for only for really, really wealthy people, or this is like a luxury service. And so we don't even look into the details of how we might be able to make it possible for our family. And I'm guilty of that. For the longest time, I didn't even know what outsourcing was. I thought it was something that only really wealthy people did. And I assumed that it just was out of my grasp. But when I dug into the research a little bit more to really look through, okay, well, what are these services and what could I do? What might my family benefit from? I realized that this was very much within our grasp. And so, for instance, with laundry, for instance, the service that I use for laundry, it's called SudShare, and there's so many of them. Y'all don't have to use that one, but that's the one I do. It is $1 per pound. $1 per pound. And so my laundry at about the 3 to 4 week point is usually no more than 30 pounds. It's $30. My children's laundry, because they're small, like they're little people. For instance, Eden's laundry is not even 10 pounds. So we get to do half of the people's laundry in this house for $40. And that's very doable for us. Very, very doable for us. So the other thing about it too is that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Sometimes we assume, well, if I can't do everybody's laundry, then it's just not feasible for me. You don't have to do everybody's laundry. Just do one person's laundry. Get one person's laundry done. So for instance, that's how we started with us. When we first started laundry service, it was only my laundry being done because I didn't want to do mine. It took too much time and it was really frustrating me. And so my laundry was outsourced. Everybody else's laundry continued to be done in the house. And so it helped because now I don't have to think about 3 people in their laundry. I only have to focus on 2. And any little bit helps when it comes to outsourcing. That's the one thing I really want to reiterate. And I'm probably sure I'll come to that later in the episode. Any little bit helps when it comes to outsourcing. You don't have to do all the things. You don't have to do it so often. Any little bit helps. Even if you're having a month where it's a tough month and you just need a little help, boom, there you go. Outsource something. All right, so that's the number one thing that gets in our way is our finances, and really that assumption that it's not within our grasp. This is a luxury item, so I shouldn't even look into it. No, I would highly encourage you to look into it, even if you think it might not be possible. There are ways to make it possible. Number 2, reason why we're hesitant to move forward with hiring help is that we feel guilty. Mamas feel guilty for everything, even the things that we have no reason to feel guilty for. We often believe that we should be able to do all of this stuff on our own, and if we can't, then something's wrong with us. That's really the thing that plays out in our head. It's like, oh my gosh, I cannot figure out how to get all this laundry done. I can't figure out how to take my kids to and from school. I can't figure out how to cook all the meals. So we just beat up on ourselves about not being able to figure it out. We suffer in silence instead of looking into, okay, well, how can I find some help for this? How might I be able to outsource some of this to lighten my load? So the guilt really gets in the way. The third thing that really keeps us hesitant from moving forward with hiring out some help is really expectation from other people as well. And so what I have seen happen is that there's a mama who knows she needs the help. Maybe she does want to consider outsourcing, but there are people around her who don't support this because they don't fully understand what she needs. They don't fully understand the load that she is carrying in terms of the responsibilities. They just assume that she should be able to do it, or there's this expectation that this is her job. And so there's not the thought or the consideration about, well, maybe she does need some more help with this, right? And so the support isn't there. But this also continues to feed the guilt. And so a lot of our guilt is internal, it comes from us, but then also a lot of our guilt is perpetuated by the expectations that other people have of us. So if there is someone in your life who expects you to do all the things and you need help, they might not support you in it because they don't fully understand the help that you're needing. Okay. So we just went through the reasons why we might be hesitant to move forward with outsourcing. Now I want to talk a little bit about how do you even get started? And so hopefully by now you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, maybe outsourcing is for me. Maybe outsourcing is something that I can do. Maybe I do want to consider it. So I want to talk you through 6 different ways that you should get started. Or I'm sorry, not 6 different ways. I want to talk you through some ways to get started. The very first thing you should do if you are wanting to get started with outsourcing is you have to assess your needs. So, really determine what it is that you need help with around the house or within your family. So, think of these questions. What continually does not get done? What's just not getting done? No matter how hard you try, no matter how intentional you try to be about it, what is not getting done? Number 2, what task do you hate the most? 3, what is always being done last minute or what are you always rushing through? Number 4, what is something you absolutely would love to just give to someone else to do? Number 5, what takes too much of your energy? And number 6, what keeps you from giving time and energy to other things that you would rather devote yourself to? So think of those questions as you are assessing your needs and also the needs of your family, because it'll help you to have an idea of what might need to be outsourced. Second thing I want you to do, assess your finances to really determine how much you can set aside for services around your home. So again, remember when I said we make this assumption that outsourcing is something for really, really wealthy people, or it's this luxury thing that we have no business considering? That's not true for everybody. That's not true for most people who think it. And so I'll say that for most of you, this assumption is keeping us stuck and not considering the help that might be there. And again, like I've said, you don't have to invest all the things. You don't have to outsource all the things. Any little bit helps. So go to your budget, check your finances, and really determine how much can I set aside per week, per month, per year for services around my home so that I can feel more present, so that I can feel more happiness, so that I can feel more peace, more joy, so that I can have time to show up more in my business and then make more money. For those of you who are business owners, because that's essentially what it'll do. You get to buy back your time and then take that time and do whatever you want with it. Number 3, I want you to start small. Pick one service to hire out, pick one service to outsource, and you do it as needed to start. You don't have to automatically think, okay, well, I'm going to do it on this super consistent basis. No, just do it as needed. When I said, when me and my husband first started with outsourcing, we do it on an as needed basis. Even now with the house, to be honest, with the cleaning, it usually shakes out to be about every 4 to 6 weeks, but it's not like a on rotation thing. It's more like based on how we feel like, oh yeah, the house getting dirty, it's time. So do it on an as needed basis. In the beginning, it doesn't need to be super consistent. Do it when you feel like you need it and when you can use it. You don't have to outsource all the things to start. Just start with one thing at a time. And remember, any little bit helps when it comes to hiring help. Number 4, I really need you to let go of the control in this. I'm going to say it one more time. You have got to let go of the control. Give up control. That's essentially what you have to do when you are outsourcing. And so I know that some of you are listening and you're like, no, I can't do that because I like things done a specific way. I'm very particular about how I want my house cleaned. Well, then this is not for you. And you will continue to feel the stress and not the depression. I'm sorry, y'all. That's a different episode. You will continue to feel stressed and frustrated and overwhelmed because you're trying to control it. And so if this is something you want to do, you have to let go of the control. And so that does not mean just take any old thing. You can give feedback and say, hey, I prefer this to be done a certain way. I want this to be done this way. But then you cannot expect that everything is going to be done 100% your way. You can't expect that it's all going to be done as if you did it. That's not how this works. Again, the idea is to buy back your time, give you some freedom. The idea is to not find a duplicate of you to do the things how you would do them, right? So for those of you who really struggle with this, I need you to work on this because outsourcing is amazing, but only if you are willing to give up the control and allow someone to help you in the ways that they know how. Of course, like I said, you can give them feedback, some instruction, but then walk away. Let it go. Let them do their job and you go use the time for something else. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I know that one's going to be hard for some of y'all, so I'm just letting it sink in. Last thing I think can be really helpful is when you are trying to get started with outsourcing, you have to really be very conscious about continually challenging your guilt, because this guilt is going to show up every single time you pick up your phone to try to book that service. Every single time you think to yourself, ooh, I cannot get these dishes done. Oh, I can't get this laundry done. Oh, I'm tired of cooking these meals all the time. This guilt is going to creep in and be like, girl, what you mean? Your mama did it. That's what the guilt is going to say. The guilt is going to be like, girl, what you mean? You came from a line of women that was able to do everything all by themselves. I don't know what your guilt says, but usually my guilt says stuff like that. So your guilt is going to come in and swoop in and try to say something like that to you. But in that moment, you need to be strong and stand up to that guilt and say, yo, first of all, no one invited you into this conversation. But if you just need to know, I am a different woman. I am showing up in motherhood differently. Motherhood looks different for everybody. And for me, it looks like getting the help I need, period. That's it. That's all y'all got to do. So, yes, continually check the guilt, because the guilt is going to make you feel like you're doing something wrong because you can't get all these things done. And that is not true. So please check your guilt. If you need help with guilt, you should go to balancedworkingmama.com. We have an amazing mama blog all about guilt. So go to our mama blog on the site, find the article about guilt, but also episode 42 of this podcast is about guilt as well. Lastly, I want to talk through a few examples of how you actually can outsource for your home and for your family. So this was just the list of things that I thought of, but I'm sure you literally can hire someone to help you with anything. Like, you seriously can. So the list is probably endless, but the main things that pop up when I think about mothers and outsourcing, one is house cleaning. I think that's a huge one, and that is often the first go-to is when we first are getting into outsourcing, we want someone to come and clean our home. So that is a big one. The second one that I thought of, and this one actually is one that I think people come to a little bit later, but for us it's been a huge one, is the laundry, you all. You absolutely can find services and people to do your laundry, and it's not as costly as you think. So laundry is another way. The third way is childcare. And of course, I know that childcare is hard to come by, especially with the pandemic. But childcare is absolutely another form of outsourcing. We don't often think about it like that, but I think about that as well. But another form of it is nannying. So I have a friend, her and her family are now hiring a nanny. And what the nanny will do is really help them with pickup and drop off for their children to school. Smart, because we all know that time, that morning time of like getting the kids to school, you going to work, picking the kids up, coming home, that's a really hectic time. And so if you're able to have someone that you trust to do those drop-offs and pickups for you, bruh, game changer. Okay. And then I think they're also going to have the nanny do some tidying in the evenings in the home a few weeks out of the month. So boom, there you go. Meals are another way that you can outsource. I have used HelloFresh in the past. I'm currently using Daily Harvest. I know there's few other ones. I think HelloFresh is super popular for families, but there's so many different meal delivery services that you all can be utilizing. But even with grocery delivery, so if you don't want to do the whole meal, getting into grocery delivery, and I know a lot of us have moved into that place because of the pandemic. So doing things like Instacart, or for those of you who live in states with Kroger, we miss Kroger. We don't have a Kroger here in this area, but Kroger has their, what do they call it? Click list, something like that, where basically you can build your grocery list online and then drive to the store. Shopping's already done for you. All you got to do is pick it up. Y'all need to be taking advantage of that, because I forgot. Now my memory is coming back. That was probably one of the other means of outsourcing we did too. We did the Kroger click list for a long time when we lived in Tennessee. Yeah, that is a good one. Another one that sometimes we don't think about is lawn care, yard care. So if you all are living somewhere and you have a yard and you just cannot keep up with like maintaining the lawn, hire people to do that for you. I have a mama in the Empower Wellness program who recently hired someone to organize her closet. So organization is huge around the house, these closet spaces, all that. Y'all don't have to rack your brain and Google and YouTube. Hire somebody to do this for you. Last one that I will mention that I also think we sleep on is with child development. So yes, we have our child care centers, we have our schools, we have our pediatricians, but sometimes we need more help outside of those providers, especially with sleep. Sleep training is one thing that pops up all the time, and many of us are struggling through it. We trying to read the book, knowing good and damn well we don't got time to read the book to teach our kid how to sleep train. There are sleep training coaches who do this day and night. So you can hire them to help you with sleep training. You don't got to read the book. You don't got to Google and YouTube all the things. Hire help for this. It's a sleep training coach. But again, other aspects of child development that we need help with. You can hire people to help you with potty training. You can hire people to help you with stopping tantrums, like so many different things that you're needing help with regard to your child. Another thing that's popular right now is positive parenting. There are positive parenting coaches who teach us how to do this. So you all, we don't have to be doing all the things by ourselves. There are people who are skilled and talented who can help us, and they are just ready for you to be willing and open to hire the help. So I hope that y'all really found value in this. Please, if you have listened to this episode and you now feel inspired to go and outsource for the very first time, or to increase the amount of outsourcing that you're going to do, please screenshot this episode, upload it to your Instagram or whatever social media you're on, tag me and Balanced Working Mama, and share with us how this inspired you and how you plan to get started. Because I want to know, I want to hear about it. Tell me, how is it going for you when it comes to outsourcing? All right, y'all, I am out. I am about to go finish my day. I hope that y'all have a good week and talk soon. Hey mama, need a boost in your wellness? If so, join me and many other mamas every Tuesday for a wellness game. Complete the wellness activities for that week, accumulate points, and then play to win a prize sponsored by a Black woman-owned business. Make sure you follow me on Instagram so that you don't miss a game. You can find me at Dr. Amber Thornton. That's DrAmberThornton. See you there. Hey mama, thank you for listening to the Balanced Working Mama podcast. If you love this podcast, please be sure to rate it and share it with another mama that you know. And don't forget to follow me and Balanced Working Mama on Instagram. I'll talk to you soon.